But you notice what happened when Zacharias saw the angel. He was troubled, and fear fell upon him. Now notice, these are two different clauses. Zacharias saw the angel, and when he saw him, he was troubled. And when he was troubled, fear fell upon him. Zacharias saw the angel. He was troubled, and fear fell upon him. Fear is a spirit. The Bible tells us that the Lord has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. But oftentimes many of us are captured by fear. Why? Because we allow the door to be open to it. For Zacharias was troubled. He was troubled. In other words, he was bothered by the fact that the Lord had sent an angel to visit him. He was bothered by the fact that this angel, this divine messenger, showed up in his midst. He was troubled, and he allowed fear to come in.
Yes.
I don't know if you're getting it this morning. He was troubled. See, here's someone who the Lord has just described as righteous, as walking blamelessly in all the ways of the Lord. But yet he was troubled when the Lord visited him. He was troubled. But you see, the angels had the responsibility to carry the message from the Lord, from the throne room, directly from the throne room to the men on earth. And so Zacharias had this divine visitation, and he was troubled. And because of his troubling, because he was troubled, because he allowed his mind to be troubled by this notion, fear fell upon him. Now sometimes we're troubled because we don't believe. Now hear me out for a minute. Because if we are having a relationship with the Lord and we speak to him on a regular basis, and we speak to him and we ask him for things, and we ought to believe what he says. And we ought to believe, and we ought to expect. We ought to expect that he's going to give what it is that we've asked for. If we're asking in line with his word, then we ought to expect. For if we don't expect, then why do we bother ask?
Right.
James says, how can any man expect to receive of God if he does not believe?
Right.
But yet, even though Zacharias was a praying man, when his answer came, he was troubled. That tells me that Zacharias did not really believe that he was ever going to receive of the Lord. It tells me that he didn't ever expect, because if the answer was coming right away, this thing that he'd been praying for, we know that he'd been praying because Gabriel said, your prayers have been heard.
Right.
One of the first things that Gabriel, the angel, says, listen, your prayers. He said, Zacharias, fear not, for thy prayer is heard. In other words, the petition that you put before the Lord has been heard. The Lord has heard, and now I've come to bring you an answer. But Zacharias' first instinct was to be troubled and to be afraid. That tells me he did not believe that he was going to receive of the Lord. Because if you believe that you're going to receive of the Lord, when your answer comes, you start to rejoice. You start to get excited. You start to say, hey, listen, I've been praying, I've been petitioning, and it seems like it was so long off, but yet the Lord has heard my cry. You start to rejoice. And the word is confirmed for as we go further along. Zacharias, and he starts a dialogue with the angel. And Gabriel says, listen, don't allow fear to set in your spirit. I see that spirit, but don't allow it. Why? Because your prayer has been heard. And the thing that you've been praying for, you've been childless so long, this thing that you've been praying for is going to happen. But not only is it going to happen, not only are you going to receive a child, but this is not going to be any ordinary child.
That's right.
This child that you've been waiting for is the one who's going to lead people. Israel had been in such an apostastic state where they had turned away from the Lord. They had gone off and done their own thing, and because of that they had been enslaved. But this son you're going to have is going to lead them back. It's going to lead the unbelievers and the skeptics. He's going to point their way back to the Messiah that they've been waiting for and waiting for his appearance. This angel was saying that your son, first of all, I'm going to give you a son. I'm going to give you what you asked for. But not only are you going to receive what you asked for, but you're going to receive so much more. You see, when the Lord does something, he does it perfectly. And when we don't receive what we desire of the Lord right away, sometimes we think it's because, okay, well, maybe I'm not praying enough. Maybe something's wrong. I must have done something. But often when the Lord is saying, hold on, because I've got something better for you. Now is not the time. Now is not the time for this, where there's preparation that needs to happen. But when you do receive, if you only faint not, we shall receive. Church, we quote these verses all the time. The Bible says we shall receive if we faint not.
Right.
If we faint not. See, there's that if. There's that conjunction again. That means in order for the first clause to be applicable, the second has to be in place.
That's right.
If you faint not, you shall receive. Zacharias and Elizabeth didn't receive what they wanted at the first, and from a natural perspective, it seemed that there was no hope for them to ever receive what it was that they wanted. But they continued to be obedient. They continued to follow, and because of that obedience, the Lord called them righteous. And because they were righteous, they received not only what it was they desired, but they received even more. Church, the righteous, David said, I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. But our problem is, we fall out of the race before the Lord can call us righteous. We fall out of the race. We discount ourselves. We say, well, you know what? It hasn't happened yet, so I might as well just kind of do my own thing, because clearly this whole God thing is not working out. But our God is a long-suffering God. Don't use your own time clock to try and measure God. Just because you haven't received what you desire from Him right now doesn't mean that you want to throw in the towel when He's done. But it means to continue to do what you know to do. Continue to walk. Continue to put one foot in front of the other. Continue to push. Continue to say, you know what, I may not have it yet, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep walking. I'm going to be steadfast and consistent and do whatever it is that the Lord tells me to do. For I shall receive if I fear not. The angel declared greatness to Zacharias.
Right.
But because of the doubt that was in his heart, that door that he allowed fear to open, because of that doubt, he couldn't receive it. For he couldn't even forget the prophecy that he was talking about. For what you need to understand is that what the angel was saying was that this son that you have is the one who will walk in the spirit and the power of Elijah.
Yes.
In other words, this is Elijah coming back. Your son is going to be Elijah. And now you know the story. This was a time where people knew their story. It was what's the word I'm looking for? An oral tradition. And so they knew the stories of Elijah. They knew how he had called down and shut up the heavens where it didn't rain. And he called down fire from heaven. They knew all these things.
That's right.
They knew about who this Elijah was. And they knew the prophecy that said that Elijah was going to come back.
That's right.
They had heard these prophets. So the angel saying, your son is going to be that very one. He's going to walk in that spirit and that power where Elijah had able to call fire down from heaven because he had that relationship with the Lord.
Right.
That's the power that your son is going to come in. That's who your wife, that's who your wife is going to birth. That's the promise. Elijah, come back. But Zacharias, notice what the text says. Zacharias couldn't even get that far. He couldn't even get to the part where he recognized that his son was going to be Elijah. He was still stuck on the baby part.
Yes, yes.
And he's thinking in his mind and looking at himself and saying, baby? What? I mean, I know I've been praying for it, but now that you say I'm going to actually have it, what? Baby? No, this can't be real. This can't be true. My wife is old. I love her and everything, but she's old. She can't have any children. She's pastor. And, I'm old too, a baby? Zacharias' mind was so enshrouded in doubt that he could not even hear what the angel was saying. He could not even receive what the angel was saying. He had been praying for it.
Yes.
And yet when the answer came, he could not receive it because of doubt.
Right.
Church, there are many things that we've been praying for. We just came out of 2 weeks of prayer and fasting. Some have been tarrying for the Holy Ghost. Some have been seeking answers for other situations. And our minds cannot be enshrouded in doubt, or otherwise we'll never receive what it is that the Lord has for us.
That's right.
We will, as long as there is any doubt in our minds, we cannot receive what it is that the Lord has for us.
That's right.
But recognize it's not because the Lord is not able.
That's right.
It's not because he came with the answer.
That's
he
right.
was there with the answer.
Right.
But Zacharias just could not receive it. Could not receive it. Why? Because he was looking at himself.
That's right.
The first thing he did was he said, well, how can I know this is true? Because I'm old.
Yes.
Notice, Gabriel didn't say anything about him. He said that the Lord, the prayer is heard, and your wife will have this child. But the first thing Zacharias does, and he starts to look at the situation. He starts to say, well, how can this be because I'm old? And my wife was old. He could not understand what the angel was saying. Why? Because he was so caught up in his doubt, and he was looking at his situation. But it wasn't about him. It wasn't about what he could do. It wasn't about what his wife could do, but it was about the one that he had been praying to and the power that the Lord God Almighty has, for it's him that does the work.
That's right.
We see ourselves and we see limitless beings, and we are right, for we are limited. But this is the problem. We don't receive our answer oftentimes because we look at ourselves. Church, let me burst your bubble this morning, and mine too. None of us can do anything of worth by ourselves. As much as great as we think we are, as much as we bring ourselves up at times, there's nothing of worth that we can do for ourselves. But it's the Lord that works through us. It's him that does the work. It's not you. So stop looking at your situation. Stop looking at the fact that it looks impossible. In fact, oftentimes the Lord waits until the situation is absolutely impossible. He says, now I can do something. Now I can work. Now I can, silence all those doubting Thomases and push everything else aside. Now the situation has gotten to a point where nobody else can do anything. Now is my best time for me to work. Now is when I can do what I do best, which is show himself strong on behalf of them who love him. Church, when we are walking according to the standards of the Lord, there is nothing that he would not do for us. But we don't receive it. Why? Because we do not believe. So I ask, if we don't believe, then why do we bother asking? Why do we bother go through the rituals of asking if we don't believe that we'll receive? Because as exactly we're church, we've gone to this habit of putting in prayer requests or putting our petitions before the Lord, because that's what we do after we do the Bible reading. We have prayer requests, so I better think, oh yes, someone asked me for prayer, so let me just put that in. But if we don't believe, we'll never receive.
Right.
The world has a saying that seeing is believing. But in the church, the script is flipped, because believing is see it. If I believe it, I shall receive it. If I believe it, if I have faith enough to know that my God is able to supply all my needs according to his riches in glory, then I know that I'll receive what I'm praying for. I'll receive that which is in line with his word. Because remember, we're in context, we're talking about walking righteously and walking upright. If you're not walking righteously and upright, then the promises of the Lord don't apply to you.
That's right.
The promises of the Lord don't apply to you if you're not walking uprightly or righteously. But if you are, then you know that these promises are for you. Like Luke said, you can know that these things are true because I'm telling you this so that you can know it's true, so that in your own life you can apply that same measure of faith in your own life. I'm telling you the story because this is how it happened. This is what you need to know. It's a testimony. It's an account of a cloud of witnesses. Say, here's another witness. Just in case you don't believe that story, here's another story. Confirm what you've heard. But Zacharias didn't believe. And he said, listen, you're not going to mess this one up. You've come too far. So I'm going to shut your mouth. You want a sign that you're going to receive, you're going to shut. You're not going to be able to say anything because there's power of life and death in the tongue. And sometimes we speak against ourselves and we rob ourselves of our own, of our answer from the Lord. Why? Because we talk things out. We speak life into negativity. We breed negativity by what we say. The angel said, listen, no. The Lord wants to do a great work here. You're not going to mess this up. So you know what? Your sign, you're going to be mute. You won't be able to say a word. You won't be able to spread. Disbelief is like a disease, and you're not going to be able to spread your disease to anybody else. But I'm going to kill it right here. We're going to stop it right here so that you can't spread it. Because these words shall be fulfilled in their season. Gabriel was saying that I am Gabriel, sent by God to speak what he is going to do. And we know that the word of the Lord cannot return to him void. So that means if he's speaking it, if he said it, then it must come to pass. If the Lord has said it, then it must come to pass.
That's right.
If the Lord has said it, it must come to pass.